Greetings, it is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue our discussion on D20 Modern. When we last left off, we were talking about skills in D20 Modern, and I want to dive right back into that. I'm going to start talking about skill synergy. What skill synergy exists, it means that when I have two skills, they might interact with each other that provides a bonus to me. What it translates to in game terms is if I have 5 ranks in a certain skill, then I can be granted a +2 bonus to another skill. This is the synergy bonus that I'm being granted. Now, when and where this actually applies is going to be up to the DM. There are some examples within the book that lists when synergy should apply, but a DM will tell you whether or not the synergy exists for whatever reason, maybe circumstances change, or if they come up with a different synergy bonus that might exist that, oh, you're doing this, then it might be great to have this other skill, it'll give you a synergy bonus, I'll give it to you, you have 5 ranks. And now, there can be times when you're rolling a check similar to a skill check, and you don't have an exact skill that matches with it. This is just an ability modifier check. You can have an ability check, where you're rolling a straight ability modifier roll to do something that no skill will apply to. The GM will once again choose a DC for such a roll, and will let you know when this is occurring. Now, when we're talking about bonuses, I do want to go into the fact that most bonuses do not stack with each other. If you have typed bonuses, that means there's a bonus that mentions it's got a specific type. Traditionally, they don't stack with each other. There are exceptions. Dodge bonuses usually stack, synergy bonuses stack, and circumstances bonus may stack if they list it. Any other bonus type, whether mundane or if it's a world that you have that's a modern world with magic, if magic exists, one of the magical based bonuses, they normally don't stack with each other. Whatever's best apply. There are other exceptions to this. If a bonus has no type to it, i.e. it's an untyped bonus, then they're just going to stack just fine unless something says otherwise under that bonus. And penalties traditionally stack, unless the penalty itself says it doesn't stack for any reason. So penalties stack, untyped bonuses stack. So let's start talking about the different entries for every skill. They give you an amount of information. First off, of course, it's the skill's name. Then it's whatever key ability score is related to. This will tell you what ability modifier, if any, applies to when you're using these skills. After that, we look at whether it's trained only. Trained only means it will let you know, it will say right then and there that you need an actual rank in that skill to use it. If you do not have that rank, you cannot use that skill. It will also mention if armor penalty applies. When I'm going to get into talking about armor and equipment, armor can give penalties to various skills, usually ones that are based upon physical, especially dexterity-based things. An armor that restricts your movement will apply an armor penalty to those skills. And this skill entry will mention whether or not that armor penalty applies to this skill or not. It's not going to apply to every skill, but it will apply to some of them. Now, next up, we get into the actual meat of what a skill talks about. The first are the basics, which tell you what kind of DCs are going to be appropriate for using this skill, and what are the results of making a successful check at this skill. This is the basic information it's going to give, and it's probably the most important information it's going to be giving. This is the meat of, I'm using this skill. After that, it will list whether a skill is appropriate to try again. Sometimes you just do a skill, you either do it or don't. There are other times where trying again has specific rules or time periods or things like that. There's more to it than just, oh, I can do it again. The book has a little excerpt there to mention if something important like that comes up. After that, it has any special notes. Special notes include things like talking about whether you can take a 10 or a 20 at certain skills, anything special similar to that that's important about the skill. Then it will talk about using the skill untrained. Now, this is assuming it's a skill that you do not need a rank in order to roll it. If there's certain rules to using it untrained, like you get a penalty or certain things happen when you're using it untrained, it will mention it after that. And then it finishes up by talking about the kind of time it takes to use every skill. This is important because it figures out if it's going to be a round, if it's going to be a minute, if it might be an hour to use a skill. Whatever kind of time it takes to use the skill is listed. Now, we go into the depths of the skills. I'm not going to go into details on any of specifically, but I will mention a few things that's important to look through if it comes up in your game. There is a chart of poisons in the book under Craft Poison. If you're looking to use poison or make a poison, look there. It also talks about under the knowledges, player knowledge versus character knowledge. This is a very important thing to bring up in general, let alone in the skill situation. Your character will know certain things, your player will know certain things, mixing them is going to occur. It's going to be hard to sort of separate out that maybe me as a player I know something, my character might not know it, and it's kind of hard, unfortunately, in this setting to really remove yourself from the two of them. So you have to try to balance it out as much as possible and catch yourself, because you don't want to use that player knowledge. When your character doesn't know something, it shouldn't reflect that. But the problem is you're probably going to do it a little bit. It's just, you try to watch yourself. It's just, try to be good about it. It helps your game master out a lot. They don't have to worry about as much as you bringing in that information. They might try to catch you on it. So if you do it yourself, it's a bit easier for them. And the last thing I really want to mention in the skill section is they have an entire section on the languages. When they talk about learning other languages using skills, they mention a whole bunch of different languages for our world now. So that's assuming you're using a Earth-based world for your modern world. You could use a fantasy setting like Faerun or Greyhawk and make it just the future and that's just fine for your GM to do. Whatever setting, though, this is just using the basics, assuming that it's Earth, because that's the one that we have the best idea of what a modern society looks like. So let's move on from skills to feats. Now, you will receive feats based first upon your level, but also your class will give you feats too. These are the two different sources of feats that you can get. Now, when we talk about feats, we have to talk about that the majority of feats have prerequisites. A prerequisite can be an ability score, one or more other feats, number of ranks in a skill, or an amount of base attack. Each of these prerequisites you will need in order to take that feat. So it means you need all the prerequisites taken care of before it. And any numbers that are listed here are the minimum you need in order to qualify for it. So you could have more than that number. Like if it says, if I need a certain number of ranks in a skill at 4, and I have 8, I qualify. I have more than enough, but 4 is the minimum I need to take this feat. So each feat entry in the book has certain information. It has the name of the feat, then it will list any prerequisites if it has any. If no prerequisite is listed, you're assuming that that feat has none, and you don't have to worry about it. Then it will tell you what the benefit of having that feat is, what you get for taking it. After they tell you about the benefit, some feats will list normal. Now, what normal is what someone without the feat would have. What the drawback of not having this feat would be. Effectively, if I'm getting some kind of bonus that if I don't have the feat, there's a opposite drawback, which may be just the normal rules, it will list what that drawback is. And it's assuming that this drawback would be for everyone else that might still be able to use whatever you're using that the feat isn't affecting. But again, it's just that there is a base lesser statistic to what you get as a benefit to the feat that it will list. That's like, oh, if you didn't have this feat, this is how it would be. And finally, feats will list any kind of special information you have to know about, any kind of little facts, anything like that that's important to know about. So I'm not going to go into details on any feats. I'm just going to leave it there. So that's it for today. I finished talking about skills, talked about a little bit about the entries for skills, and then I talked about feats, talked about what the entries are, talked about prerequisites for feats. Next time, I'm going to get to talking about equipment. We'll see how far we get into that. That's a very big section. If you have any questions, comments, or anything you want to say, please leave it in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe. It shows you support the channel, the Empire, the work I do. And until the next time, I bid you farewell.